16th, 2023 to order. Oops. Where have you been?
I've been trying to get us on the air. A moment, please.
Our recording secretary relies heavily on technology.
Yep.
All right, now are we ready?
We're ready.
All right, we're calling the town board meeting for October 16th, 2023 to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. Patrick, any changes?
No changes from staff, Mr. Chair.
Board have anything? If not, I need a motion to approve.
Move to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item 3 is approval of payment of the bills.
I signed off, move to approve payment of the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries. Item 4 is approval of the minutes from October 2nd. Board have any changes?
I did not see any. No. I'll move to approve the minutes of the October 2nd, 2023. Oh, I cannot. I wasn't here.
That's right.
Oh, you're right. Sorry. Wow, I forgot. I will move to approve the minutes of October, whatever date it was. Second, as submitted.
And I'll second the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
And we'll have one abstain.
Yep.
All right. Item 5 is consent agenda. We only have 5, but I think the town board is consensus. We'd like to pull the first 2.
For discussion?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you want to move, I need a motion to approve the consent without those 2?
So I will move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that motion carries. Kind of the reason I wanted to pull 5A and B is this is a new tobacco license and a cannabis product license application. And we've been dealing with this for, well, I don't know, going on a year now. And this is the first application we've had in the township for the sale of cannabis. Now, it's tied in with a tobacco license, but I just wanted to bring this to the attention of the town residents to know that this is now in our area. It was coming, and now it's here.
Mr. Chair, we should clarify, it's not cannabis, it's cannabinoid.
Yeah, okay,
It's edibles.
Edibles, yeah.
which makes it probably worse.
Well, and just so everyone's aware, there will be no licenses issued for cannabis till at least January 1 of 2025 pursuant to state law. So that's not an issue we have to worry about for a while.
So it's the terminology of cannabinoid.
Cannabinoid, yes.
Okay. All right.
Board, have any other questions on this? The location is just at the strip mall up by the Township Theaters. Other than that, if there's no other questions,
So I will move to approve item 5A 2023 tobacco license application.
have a second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And I will move approval of item 5B 2023 edible cannabinoid product license application.
And do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion made second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. All right, item 6 is old business. We have none, so we'll go right to item 7A.
Mr. Chair, I will throw this to the discretion of the board as to how they would like to order the next 3 agenda items. The vast majority of the folks who are here or present this evening are here for B and C. It would be staff's recommendation that we move the stormwater pollution prevention program to the 3rd item unless anybody's really offended by that.
No one wants to hear about our
Everyone
ponds?
should know about stormwater
Yes, if
prevention.
they would like to, they can stick around.
I don't think the board has a problem with that, but then I need to have Chad clarify what's going to happen here with these assessment hearings.
What will happen is, Mr. Poplar the city engineer, will go through the project with you, go through the assessment with you. And I think the reason why the chair wants me to talk first is just to remind you that if you want to object to your assessment, you have to give us a written objection tonight. If you don't, before the board votes on it, you can't object, you can't bring an action to object to your assessment. And the objection has to be just put your name, your property address, and write, "I object," and sign it and date it. That's all we're looking for. And bring it up to the table. But you have to do that before the board votes on the assessment.
And we'll pass around a sign-up sheet for everybody when we get going here.
Right.
Okay?
Yes, correct.
All right, So if we're going to move into 7B, it's the public hearing for the 2022
Excuse me.
dash.
Actually, we should do each individual objections for each property.
That's what I mean. So I'll just send
Okay,
the sheet around for everybody to
perfect.
sign it up.
That's easy. Okay, thanks.
All right.
Wasn't sure.
This is for the Gilfillan Street improvements. First item is I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading that was properly published.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Then I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll move to open up the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, Larry, you going to give us an overview on this one?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Town Board. I have a brief PowerPoint that I'll go walk through here, and then we can open it up for public comment. Okay, as a reminder, the project, the Gilfillan Street Improvements Project includes improvements to Greenhaven Drive, Gilfillan Lane, Crescent Curve, Moon Lake Circle, Meadowland Drive, North Birch Lake Boulevard, and Birch Lake Road, I think, down here. Birch Bend, I'm sorry. The project included 1.8 miles of work, of mill and overlay and reclamation work, and most of the properties were residential, but there were commercial properties as well on the project. To give a little bit of a reminder and some pictures of what was out there when we started the project, there's concrete curb and gutter already on the project. We did spot repairs and improvements at catch basins along the project, work on the sidewalk, and we had varying street widths. Some of the construction photos included, we got a photo here of kind of mill and overlay work. They're milling the upper layer of pavement in this photo. We did do other stormwater improvements, including cleaning out ponds, improving specific areas of stormwater piping and structures. We replaced the rings on all the stormwater castings on the project. And then we also obviously repave the road, and that's what you see on the right there. I got a few photos of the final work. The picture on the left is looking north on Greenhaven Drive at Gilfillan Lane on the south side. So you can kind of see some of the curb work and work at some of these catch basins here. The new surface of pavement, in this case on Greenhaven Road. Greenhaven, we replaced all the pavement through there. The picture on the right is on Moon Lake Circle, and there's some work that was done in front of driveways, and in some of these cases we had to go into the driveway to make our tie-in. And this is on North Birch Lake Boulevard, again, kind of showing some of the sidewalk work, tie-ins we did, replacing the concrete valley gutter right in here. So there's some longer lengths of curbing at certain areas, depending on the need, and then spot repairs like you can see on this other side of the road. All right, we'll get into some of the costs that we get into on this project. So this is kind of a breakdown of how the money was spent on the project. We're projecting a final cost of just over $1.5 million for the project. And you can see how it's broken up. Most of the work is on the construction costs, paid to the contractor to perform the work. But then there's other project support costs to deliver that project. So in order to assess, we have to follow a very specific process, and this kind of lays out the different steps we need to follow for the project. And kind of with the conclusion of the project, we're down here at the bottom holding the assessment hearing tonight. After that, those costs are certified with the county. Those assessments are certified with the county. It's some of our final steps. And I should also mention that, we have, the work is done, but we have a list of items that need to be corrected or need to be finished. But the project is generally mostly or fully done. It's just some items we want to correct. Okay, so we'll get into some of the assessment details. We are assessing on a unit assessment process. So each residential unit, or each residential lot is assessed 1 unit, and then corner lots are assessed a half unit for each improved side.
Hey, Larry, request from the audience to speak up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. So we're projecting to assess on a unit basis, one residential unit for each lot, half a unit for each improved corner lot, and then if you have a larger lot, it's assessed multiple units. And so we've calculated how many residential units would fit along that frontage based on the current zoning ordinance. In the past, the township was able to assess 100% of those costs to residents on these types of projects. Now, historically, over time, the inflation rate has risen so much that it hasn't kept pace with the benefit that is received on these projects. So we are no longer able to assess 100% of the costs, and so the township has to use other funding sources to pay for part of the project. But because the township can only assess up to the benefit received for each individual lot. And so we test that benefit by looking at what the appraised value would be before the project and then after the project, to see what that benefit would be. And we're projecting that a benefit for a mill and overlay project is $4,000. We can support that. And then if the town board were to assess for the reclamation portion differently, they could assess up to $5,000 per unit for reclamation. I'll just show here kind of the assessment map, the properties that are projected to be assessed on this project. You can see some of the larger lots are assessed multiple units. The individual lots are assessed 1 unit. Some properties are assessed back to the township because they couldn't be assessed to another property owner. And then this other second half of the map shows North Birch Lake Boulevard, where we have frontage on that north side where a whole association has access to that. And so that frontage is assessed to multiple lots within that association. So this is a breakdown of the assessments. So overall project cost, 1.5 million, as I mentioned. The overall amount that could be assessed on this project was 1.229 million. When you calculate all the different units, 218.5 units total on this project. And we're recommending an assessment rate to all properties of $4,000 per unit. And I'd like to kind of go over that. There was a portion of the project that was a reclamation along Greenhaven Drive from Highway 96 up to Crescent Curve. So about half of Greenhaven Drive was reclamation. And we are still recommending, even though it's a reclamation and you have the option of assessing a larger amount to them, $5,000 per unit, we're recommending the $4,000 for several reasons. Number one, we have communicated consistently throughout this project a $4,000 assessment for everyone. We feel like, number two, the benefit is not that much different. And the benefit for reclamation is still within the lower range of benefit based on our appraisal information.
They're going to open for questions. Yes.
Number three, we haven't tracked costs separately for each individual road on this project. While the reclamation work was a little bit different between the two, and reclamation, as a reminder, we took all the pavement and milled all the pavement off on a portion of Greenhaven and then paved back new pavement at a 4-inch thickness. On the rest of the project, it was mill and overlay, where we took off the upper inch and a half, 2 inches, and then repaved. But we haven't tracked those costs to know if that portion of Greenhaven Drive costs the township more on a linear foot basis than the mill and overlay. Mill and overlay had other costs that may have been larger, including, driveway restoration, some sidewalk work, curb work. So we haven't tracked those costs to know if we have, on a per linear foot basis, a larger cost on that portion between the two different types of improvements. And number 4, we like to generally keep these projects simple as possible for assessment purposes. We don't like to track costs on an individual basis. We like to, when we do a project, we like to lump it together and then assess the same amount for everyone. So for those reasons, we're recommending the $4,000 per unit rate, but it is the board's decision tonight if they hear testimony or discuss it, that it should be different. So when you take the $4,000, multiply by those 218.5 units, that amounts to $874,000 of the $1.5 million total on the project, and the $1.229 million of assessable amount of the project. That assessment is a 10-year assessment, and I'm going to walk through what that means in a second. And then for this type of project, we have an interest rate of 6% for the project. So this is a assessment payment schedule, and I want to talk about the different options residents have on these types of assessments. Number 1, they could go into the township hall starting tomorrow and pay off that full $4,000 amount. Option 2, they could come into Township Hall tomorrow and pay a portion of that amount. As long as it's above $1,000.
And it's interest-free at that point.
And it's interest-free for a period of 30 days. So you can come in from now until November 16th and pay it off or pay it down. That's option 2. Option 3 is do nothing. You let it roll on your taxes. And so I'm going to walk through what that means if you do that. So this is a payment schedule if you just let it go onto your taxes for a period of that 10-year term. And so each year you pay a principal amount, $10,000 divided by, or I'm sorry, $4,000 divided by 10 years, $400 per year. Then the interest, that 6% is in this column per year, and that interest rate goes down, that interest amount goes down as you pay off principal, if that makes sense. And so your total for year 1 would be $700, total for year 2 is $616, and it reduces and so on and so on. That first year, the interest is a little bit higher because you're paying off the 12 months for 2024 plus the 3 months starting from tonight, from the assessment hearing to the end of the year. So that first year is 15 months approximately of interest for that first year. So if there's questions on that, I'd be happy to walk through this some more. Another option for residents, if they qualify, is deferring these assessments for a point in time in the future. And there's income requirements and age requirements to be on deferral. And if you have questions about that, you can visit the town board, or I'm sorry, the township offices, Monday through Friday. Come into the township office and ask about a deferral. The 6% interest rate is, over time now, as the market has changed, that interest rate has changed, and this is the current rate. If you can find or you have options for different rates, another option could be to take out a different type of loan for that $4,000 and then just, use that loan to pay off, and you'd bring in and pay off that $4,000. and then you're using a different loan to pay that off over time. So those are the various options you have as a property owner. So when you break down the funding for the project based on that $4,000 per unit, again, it equates to $874,000 in assessments for that 218.5 units. But these are the other funding sources for this project. The top one there is township levy funds that are levied over the entire township, $355,000. And then there was some minor water main improvements done on the project, $13,000. I mentioned the stormwater improvements, those structures that were on that picture, the pond cleanouts were funded by storm sewer utility funds, and so that's $195,000. And then sanitary sewer work, $75,000. So that's what makes up that $1.5 million, the funding for that $1.5 million of the project. As a comparison, when we studied this project late last year, we were projecting a cost of $1.675 million on the project. So we got a good bid and got the work done. So the actions tonight is our next are to open the public hearing, take public testimony, and then adopt a resolution confirming the assessment amounts that are chosen by the town board tonight. And a supermajority is needed for this action. In other words, 4/5,
Be the entire board.
which would, in this case, be a full, all three for this, decision. So I hope I walked through things, well for you, but I'm here to answer any questions, and I'll turn it over to the board.
Well, to start with, we're going to discuss this with the board, then I'll call for the opening of the public hearing, and then you folks can come up, state your name and address at the podium for the record, and we'll go through your testimonies. But for now, we're just going to probably hash over what Larry's gone through here for us. Now, Tom Kelly's our finance officer. You got anything else to add?
No.
Larry did such a stellar job that,
No, he kind of hit everything as far as where the funding for the project is coming from, how the assessments work, so I think we're good there. I'll just be able to answer any questions residents have that maybe stump Larry.
right, Scott?
Mr. Chair, as the clerk had mentioned, if there are people that want to object to the assessment, there is a tablet in the back.
It's already in the audience.
Okay, all right, okay, I didn't see that. All right. But you'll have to, before they open the hearing, present that to the clerk. So we might need a little time for people to.
Actually, our past practice is to allow people to object up to the time the board takes a vote on it.
Oh, okay.
It's a little different, you're right. I mean, theoretically, it closes once public testimony starts, but the board has been a little more liberal on that and allowing people to make objections up to the time the board takes the vote. And I'll tell you what we'll do just to make sure, we'll give you one last warning, and that'll be it.
And that usually happens after we close the public comment.
Right.
Portion of the hearing. All right, Scott?
So, Larry, you had hit a lot of points that I had questions on, but I just want to confirm a few things. One is, you said there's still some cleanup work. Is that the punch list?
Yes.
And will some of that carry over maybe into next year, or is it going to be totally wrapped up this year?
Yes, so next year, we will have a list if they don't complete everything by the conclusion of this year. The list will carry forward into next year, but also in the spring, we do what's called a warranty walkthrough, where we'll walk through the project and see if there's anything that has settled, or if there's a curb that was poured that cracks, we would replace that next spring. And so we do a walkthrough in the spring that assures that the work was done satisfactorily and that we don't have any issues that linger.
So the residents who have spoken to, I heard somebody talk about Sarah earlier. They've had an opportunity to chat with her, and that might add to the punch list, or maybe next
Yes.
spring as well.
That's a good point. If you see anything as a resident on this project or the next project, contact us, contact Sarah. I think that her number or email address is out there for people, or contact me, and we will look at that issue if you see an issue that transpires over the course of now into next spring.
Okay. The next one might be for Tom. I know you said the overall project costs are 1.5 million. You've mentioned that a few times, but assessable costs are 1.229 million. I'm guessing that's just road work and excludes the water, stormwater, and sewer work.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, well, all right. I'll stay with you then. You mentioned also the fact that there was some additional work done on Gilfillan with the mill and overlay, but then also the fact that there was additional work, a different type done on Greenhaven, specifically if sidewalks needed cleaning up, or more specifically driveways. There's a lot more driveways on one than the other. And the idea is that maybe some more work was done on this one, but some more work was done on this one, but overall, the total came in at about $1 million. It came in at $1.5 million, and you didn't track it for each individual section. Historically, given your history of working on this, given your experience, which has been for I don't know how many years, is that what you have typically experienced with projects like this?
Yes, we generally like to keep things as simple as possible, that we do the project and we assess the same rate for.
Right, I understand that part, but when you've done big projects in the past with several streets, is there maybe a little more work done on one street than another street?
Yes.
Okay, manhole covers or
Yes,
whatever.
there's more manholes on one street versus another. There's more driveway work on one street versus another, sidewalk work, etc.
Okay.
They're not the same on each.
And I guess my last question is the group, I'm going to call it the valuation, and I'm blanking on what the benefit is called. I can't think of it, but.
The benefit, actually.
Well,
Appraisal?
appraisal, thank you, that was it. I just blanked on it. But it's a group or a blanket appraisal, which is different than an individual appraisal for each separate household. And this is, again, something that you've done on each of the other projects for however many years you've done this. That's a standard practice.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it's wound up being pretty, I guess I just want to make sure that if I hired an individual appraiser to come out and look at my place, it might vary up or down a little bit based on what the overall neighborhood consensus might be. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
Okay,
If I may follow up on that last point, to have each individual property appraised would have added probably $400 to $500 to the assessment, because that's what it pretty much would have cost to have each property appraised. Would have slowed things down, and really the benefit is pretty. The way the township appraised this is very standard. In fact, this township was being rather conservative in actually having the appraisal done. There are some municipalities that won't have an appraisal done, period. They'll simply assess the property and presume the benefit exists. So the process followed by the town was very conservative, and it was better, and it's of a higher level than what you'll see in a lot of assessment projects in other municipalities.
that's all I had, thank you.
Well, just following up on that, if that was to cost another, say, $400 to $500 per property times 280 pieces of property, that would have been added on to the assessment cost.
Exactly right.
To cover those original costs.
Exactly.
Well, up until the benefit received.
Right. But that's another reason why if we blanket assess, we're not running up the cost of the total assessment. I'm sorry, appraisals. Steve?
Just clarify, you mentioned sidewalk work. As you do any project like this, as you have new curb, as it meets the sidewalk, we are required to make it accessible, curb mountings, right? The picture you had of the approach to the roadways, were they there before?
They may have been, you know.
I don't think they were, but.
I don't think so.
But that's part of every road project. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, but I think we have to do those. The county did those on H2 as they redid the roadways. And that does increase some of the cost, but it's beyond reasonable. So that was my real question.
Well, obviously, the board's been going over this for over a year, but just the one question I have, when we bid these out, I know we got a favorable bid, but contractors, our scope of work and the contractors' bids don't get real finite on these small particulars. Most contractors can't even try to guesstimate this much here, that much there. They start to lump it together. Now, I don't know what it would cost for us to even ask them to try to separate all these individual costs. I think it'd just be too cumbersome. And I don't know how we'd even track that. So that's part of the reason why when the town does these, it is kind of lumped a little bit together because it's physically just way too cumbersome to try to break it down. And so that gets back to, that's another reason why when we do these assessments, if you do them per unit, we're not trying to cherry pick all these little things on each individual lot or road. So we've been doing this now for, I don't know, what our road improvement started 7 years ago?
No, this phase started 3 years ago.
No, but I mean, when the board took I know when the board made a case to say that we can no longer assess 100%.
Oh, got
Well,
it.
now we have to start bonding. Now we have to start bonding to pick up the extra costs, to try to keep the cost down for each individual. We've had as high as a $40,000 road assessment for individuals. So this can be really expensive, or it can be fairly reasonable. For what service you get, because we're bonding more, we've tried to keep the cost down for the residents. All right, board, have any other questions? Tom, you got anything else to add?
Can you, Tom, just real quick for everyone's edification, explain how costs for this project and all of our projects get spread across the township levy, just as easily as you can?
Basically, the township, if we issue bonds, then there's a component of the bonds that we guarantee that we will levy for that, or the board would levy for that when we do our budget here in December. The levy then gets added to each individual property of the entire township, with the exception of exempt properties, churches, governmental properties, they're tax exempt, so they wouldn't pick up any of that. The levy is basically guaranteed over the life of the bond. In this case, Larry is estimating a 10-year assessment, so we would issue bonds covering those 10 years and have that payment each year. The fact of the matter is, this project we did not bond for. We're using township reserves because it was a smaller project and we had some funds available that we could use instead of bonding for it. Basically, when Larry shows that the water fund, the stormwater fund, and the sanitary sewer fund has a portion to pay of these project costs, those come from your sewer rates, your water rates, and your stormwater rates that you pay every quarter. The rates include our capital improvement plan, so it includes funding all these projects. And so depending on the year and the size of the project from each fund, the water fund may go down with cash balance or it may go up because of the uneven payments of those bonds. So that's kind of the nutshell of it. Also, if for whatever reason, if we issue debt and there's a levy portion to it, if for some reason we end up with some cash reserves that we can use to lower that levy, the board can pass a resolution at the time of adopting our final levy and budget, reducing that levy. And we've been able to do that the last couple of years, mainly because of some COVID money that we received from the federal government. And then, as I said, we do have some reserves that we've been setting aside for these road projects.
I said easy.
Yeah, well, it's complicated.
Yeah, obviously.
All right, anything else from the board? All right, I'm going to ask for a motion and open up for public comment.
I'll make a motion to open the hearing up for public comment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I just asked that if you come up, you state your name and address for the record. I know there's a few people here, we don't want to be redundant and go over the same exact questions, so if your questions get answered, please direct them to the board, and we'll either refer to Tom or Larry or the attorney.
My name is Judy Roller, 738 Crescent Curve. I'd like to know how you allotted the expense between a commercial unit versus residential.
Now, you want to explain that breakdown?
Sure. So we'll go back to the map here. So this is maybe you can't see my cursor, but you can see like the Cub lot has frontage of, along it that equated to, in this case, 6.5 units. So we take the ordinance, the way it calls out the frontage for an individual residential lot, and we see how many residential lots would fit on that frontage, for example, along the Cub Foods lot. So how many fit on that parcel? And it has to be not only the distance, but also the area. So we test that, and we work with our township planner to confirm the amount that should be assessed to each parcel. And so we break that frontage into how many residential units would fit on that frontage, if that makes sense.
And you do that with, doesn't matter, if it's non-residential, that's the way you do it, correct? Whether it's a commercial building,
It could still be residential. If
If it's a bigger lot.
If there's subdivision, if there's a residential lot that is large enough that could be subdivided in, based on the township ordinances at the time.
okay. Hey, go ahead.
I'm Bonnie Jacklin, 743 Gilfillan Lane. I have just two kind of quick questions. Regarding the objection, what exactly are we objecting to, and what is the process from this point?
I believe our town attorney can answer that one.
It's actually very straightforward. You're objecting, you're basically saying that you believe.
Can you speak louder?
Sure.
I don't think they're working all that well.
Yeah, I mean, if you had, that's the best I can do. I'll just talk loud. How about that? The attorneys are good at that. Okay. Basically, there's three bases for objecting or appealing an assessment. One is benefit. Is the benefit less than the actual amount of the assessment? Two is, were the proper procedures followed? And three was the assessment done in a constitutional method? Does it follow the Constitution? Basically, was it uniform? So those are the bases. Now, under the statute, you have to do two things. One is you have to file a written objection with the township prior, and normally it's before the meeting starts. But we've decided to, the board's decided to accept objections up to the time they take the vote. That's number one. Number two is you have to serve on the town clerk or the town chair within 30 days the date of adoption, if they adopt the assessment, of a formal appeal of the assessment. And then once you've served that, then you have 10 days from the date of service to actually file that appeal with district court. So, first step is file the objection. Second step is file an appeal with the town. Third step is file the appeal with an affidavit of service on the town with the district court. And by the way, one other point, these are all jurisdictional. By that I mean, if you fail to do any of those 3 steps, you can't appeal.
I'm just going to make a suggestion for the future, that somewhere you send that out with the information.
Actually, it's in the notice. Statutorily, it's required that you provide that. It's in the notice.
All of those steps are included in there?
Yes, they are.
Okay. My second question, regarding the appraisal, does the benefit of the $4,000 automatically be sent to the county so our market value is increased for tax purposes?
No, does not.
It's not?
No. Just so you know, what the county, on January 2nd of each year, the county appraiser determines what the value of the property is. Now, will they take into account benefits like this? Sure they can, but the county appraiser determines that, and that's set on January 2nd of each year.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Roy Otto. I live at 4626 Greenhaven Drive. My question is a simple one. So in my notice of this hearing, I got my assessment amount. So after, if you guys approve that tonight, and I go to town hall and write my check, is that the end of it? Or is there any comeback sometime later because you miscalculated?
No, once we finalize tonight, that's stamped.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dan Turcott at 4610 Greenhaven Drive. 2 questions. I don't know how we can object or appeal what you're going to charge us if we don't know if we're getting charged $4,000 or $5,000. I mean, at $4,000, I probably wouldn't object or appeal, but you're not telling me definitely what I'm going to get charged. At $5,000, I'm going to appeal. What you're saying so far, from what I understand from Larry, is it may end up being $4,000 across the board.
That's the proposal in front of us.
That's the proposal in front of you. In the letter I got from the city, it says $5,000, assessment amount $5,000. Because I am part of the reclamation of Greenhaven. And as you were talking, what I couldn't follow is everybody on Birch Lake Boulevard North was getting assessed because they use that road to get into their property. I think that's what you said, right? Mm-hmm. Well, where they did the reclamation on Greenhaven, just about everybody uses Greenhaven to get into their property over there also. And that's where I find it, if we're doing part of the project where people are getting assessed for their use, that's their entrance to get in their property, I think everybody should get assessed equally. So, like I said, it's hard to object to something or appeal to something when you don't know what you're appealing or objecting to.
Mr. Chair,
Difference in the amount.
if I may. Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sure, sorry.
Just because you file an objection doesn't mean you have to file the appeal. You can just let it drop. So my recommendation would be, if you have any doubts whatsoever about whether you want to appeal, object to the assessment, appeal it, object to it now.
Okay.
Because it doesn't cost you a thing to object to tonight, and if you don't want to go carry through with it, you don't have to. Just stop. It's done.
Okay, thank you.
And then, sir,
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we wanted to give the board the option of assessing that higher amount, to Greenhaven if they heard, we're recommending the 4,000, but if they chose and they heard testimony that they should go to 5,000 tonight, we wanted to give the board that option to do that.
Okay.
And so that's why you received a notice that was different than
But
other
like
people in the project.
you said, Larry, there's different properties that had more curbing, more sewer, more this, more that. So, I mean, now there is actually a breakdown of what happened from what you said. It's hard to tell. Two other things I had on my list is our sprinkler system guy came out to adjust heads because the guy from the township hired wasn't able to come out and do it. They had difficulties with him. This is from Sarah from TKD, I think, or,
KDA.
KD.
yeah, there we go. And he came out to adjust some sprinkler heads, and when they poured the curbing, they poured over the back of their forms. So all the concrete that went back on the other side of their forms for the curb and guttering had actually went around sprinkler heads. And those sprinkler heads, because they're encased in concrete now, we don't know what we're gonna have to do. And Tom understands what I'm saying. I think you do too, Larry. So that's a concern of ours. If that sprinkler head goes bad in the future, or if we have to try to adjust it, we can't adjust it because it's in concrete. So who would come out and take care of that at that point?
Yes, so that's a good example if you are seeing issues such as this, to communicate specifically with that location with Sarah. And if you don't have her number, I don't have it.
I still have Sarah's number.
Okay.
But at this point right now, all the sprinkler systems have been blown out. So we won't know until spring. Is there like a 1 year,
Yes.
6 months on this or something?
Yeah, so we'll do a walkthrough in the spring
hopefully-
and see if there's any issues such as that. And please communicate if you are seeing issues that occurred as a result of the project.
Okay. Another part about the project was even when I belonged to the South Winds of Gillifin Association, and I walked through Weston Woods and ours, and there's a lot of spots, a lot of areas where I don't know what they put down for sod, but they must have had part of it that was already partially dead or never took along the sidewalks all the way along there. So that's a big concern for our residents, and it's a big concern for me. Now, it doesn't affect my own lot, but it affects what I see and walk around, and part of it's the township property too, so.
And we'll do a review
in the spring.
of things, but if you are seeing areas specific, we need specific locations where you're seeing them.
Okay, I'll get a list for that.
But that's been a challenge because it's such a dry year. All the sod farms have been struggling to get us decent sod, so.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
My name is Mark Anderson, 4604 Greenhaven Drive. I'm the treasurer at Calvary Church. I think we're 10 units. I had a similar dilemma when I got the objection sheet because I don't object to 4,000, but if it was 5,000, then I would be objecting. And the reason would be, besides Larry's reasons, I would have thought that if the reclamation needed to be done as it came into our church, maybe we were a heavy equipment operator or something, and then it kind of ended there. But if it's the entire thing and our folks are coming in this way, then to me it made sense that it's not due to our traffic, it's due to all of the traffic, and so it seemed that an even assessment made sense to me. So I just wanted to share that on behalf of our church. So thank you.
and that's part of the reason why we do it in this manner, because you can talk about equality all you want, you just can't get everybody identical. All the properties are not the same, so.
Yep.
We appreciate it, though, thank you. I'm glad everything went okay with the parking?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep, thank you.
I'm Catherine Raba. I'm 1490 Hammond Road. Unfortunately, I have a lot, so I have a lot that's not built on, just an empty lot plus my house. So I am assessed the 8,000. But from what I'm seeing and hearing, doesn't sound like it really matters.
This is the next hearing.
That's the next hearing. You probably want to wait. Come back.
Your own specialist.
Oh,
Otherwise, it would be confusing on this hearing, so, yeah, so, sorry.
Guess you should clarify.
yeah, because we do have another assessment hearing coming up on another project, so. All
It's her project, yes.
right, is there any other one, anybody else want to speak to the Gill Film project? Going once, going twice. This is where I would recommend that if you still want to object,
Yeah.
you should be
Your last chance.
citing the sheet.
Who has the sign-in sheet for objecting?
Okay.
Because once we close it for open comment, the board will take action.
Yeah. So has everyone signed the objection sheet?
For Gil
Wants to. For Gil Fillen. Your chance still is coming.
And again, that is, as the attorney pointed out, that's just so they start that process. You can let it go idle after, if you accept the findings.
You have no obligation whatsoever to carry through with it, only if you want to.
All right, hearing no other testimony, I'm going to ask for a motion to close the public portion of the hearing.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? All right, that motion carries. If the board doesn't have any other comments or questions, engineer or finance officer, anything else?
Nothing for me, thank you.
All right, I would be looking for a motion on this.
I'll make a motion to set the assessment at $4,000 for all property owners on this project. As stated, it's consistent with the way we've handled projects in the past. We don't pick and choose and parson it out.
You want to refer to the resolution, Steve?
Sure. So I'll move to, based on the town engineer and staff recommendation, adopt the resolution adopting and confirming the assessment for improvements 2022.5 at
Of
$4,000.
Second that.
All right, motion's made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, that concludes this public hearing for that
For that
road improvement. But now we have another one, which is the Hammond Road street improvement. Again, I need a motion to waive the reading.
I'll move to waive the reading that is properly published.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. I need a motion to open up the public hearing.
I'll move to open up the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Larry, you want to go over this one? This is the Hammond Road street improvement?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Town Board, give me a moment here while I pull up that
You guys have to have
presentation here.
lights in here. And miracles. And I have a hearing aid on. Can't hear a damn thing.
Hey, easy, easy. There are hearing aids in the back there.
No. But
Okay, thank you.
I have to, they don't.
You're gonna see a lot of the same information that I presented
Before we.
for the last public hearing. It's a very similar project, but it includes Hammond Road and Township Parkway.
Half of us can't.
Here's a few details on the project itself.
So
It's roughly 1 mile in length. It also included some different property types, including residential and industrial property. We also had a number of trails on the project, a railroad crossing, as a kind of a commercial, mostly commercial area. The vehicle loading is a bit more on the roadway. We have concrete barrier curb on the street, and some varying street widths. I have a few photographs of the project before we started, so you can see some of the concrete curb we had, some of the driveway entrances that were failing, and I had some others looking at the pavement and trail. Here are a few construction photos when we did the work. This first slide shows the work on the trail, removing the trail with a reclamation machine, and then some curb work. We did do curb replacement in some of the worst areas of this project. And then we also did a lot of those concrete aprons that were failing that you saw. We did work on the ponds. We had some pond work. This picture on the left shows the pond near the intersection of Hammond and Township Parkway, where we cleaned out and removed the sediment that had accumulated over the years, and kind of restoring that function of the stormwater system in this area. While we're there, we want to take care of as many things as we can. The picture on the right shows the paving of the trail, and then you can kind of see some of the curb work in this area. This picture kind of shows some of the paving as was done. And again, this is a mill and overlay project for the entire project, and so removing that upper layer of pavement and putting new pavement back. Here's some pictures of the final work. In this project, we have pavement striping. I'm showing where that center line is as a commercial roadway. We have that striping on here as well. You can kind of see some of the entrances that were done on the picture on the right. And here in this picture, some of those entrances re-poured. So getting into some of the costs, this kind of breaks down the different costs. Like again, most of that work is related to the construction, paying the contractor for the work, but then there's also the cost for doing and setting up the project for engineering and other costs. On this project, there was a change order for $77,000 of work that was added to the project for work on the trail on White Bear Parkway. That work was added since we were in the area. We saw some of that trail on White Bear Parkway needed some work, so we added to the work. You know, the original, or if we didn't do that trail work, it'd be $927,000 to do the project. But so we kind of wanted to break that out separately for tonight. So we're kind of comparing apples to apples for when we started this project. This slide is the same as for the last public hearing, so just shows the different steps we've had to take throughout the process to legally assess on the project. So assessment details also were very similar from the last public hearing. We assessed on a unit basis, and so larger lots, as I mentioned, there's a number of larger commercial lots that were assessed a larger amount. And then for some of those lots, we had wetland areas that were subtracted because it's, we're trying to find out or to determine how many buildable lots could fit on that commercial frontage. So if there's wetlands, you obviously can't build in that wetland. So we subtracted some of those areas as we computed the number of units on the frontage. And again, on this, we looked and worked with our planner to assure the number of units were correct. I think we touched on many of these points. The assessments can only be up to can't exceed the benefit. And again, on this project, a separate appraisal confirmed that $4,000 amount for a mill and overlay. Here's the assessment map showing the number of units for each parcel. Again, these larger parcels had a larger amount of units. There is one residential property, which may be yours, that we believe is subdividable, and so that was assessed 2 units. And per the assessment policy, corner lots are assessed on half a unit for each improved side. So the lot here at the corner of Hammond and Otter Lake Road is assessed at half a unit. So here's the assessment summary. When you, again, the overall cost for the project, when you subtract out the added work for the trail, $927,000, and the overall amount of the street work, $845,000, just over that. And when you add up those multiple units, we have 77 units on this project. At that $4,000 rate, 77,000 times 4,000 is 308,000 for the assessments. Again, this is a 10-year term at that 6% interest rate. This slide is exactly the same as for the last hearing we just did. So, again, the principal is $4,000 for each year. If all the $4,000, or I said $400 per year, if that $4,000 was put on your taxes starting in 2024. So it's spread out over those 10 years, equal principal, a varying interest rate, again, for that, over those 10 years. And again, you have the same options as we discussed for the last hearing, with either paying it off ahead of time, starting today or starting tomorrow. For 30 days, you can pay that without interest. You can pay it down if it's above $1,000. You can pay that down, or you can do nothing, let it roll onto your taxes. Those are the main options. Again, deferrals. If you have questions on deferrals, you can contact the township offices on that. So this is a funding breakdown, as we it was similar to the breakdown we did on the previous project. Township funds, $614,000. Assessments, $308,000. Water, utility fund, just about $11,000. Storm utility fund, $65,000. That's for cleaning out those ponds, doing the repairs to the stormwater system. Sanitary sewer fund, $6,000. And so again, that total cost, $105,000. Again, $77,000 of that was added to the project for that trail work on White Bear Parkway. That's all tax levy for that amount. So that total project cost for the actual project, $927,000. The original estimate going back to the feasibility study was $1,021,000. Same process here for this project. Holding the public hearing, and then adopting a resolution confirming the assessments for Hammond Area Street Improvements Project. And again, this is a super majority is needed for this vote. Thank you.
All right, Scott?
Okay, so you threw a lot of numbers around, and I like numbers, but this was a little extra. So the whole project, the whole thing is a little over $1 million. But we need to back out $77,000 because that was for a trail on White Bear Parkway that we thought made sense, but is not really affecting this area. And we need to back out the water, the sewer, and the stormwater.
Yes.
So we come down to really what this particular discussion about of $845,000.
Of accessible.
Of accessible amounts, okay. Because I've heard a lot of other numbers being thrown around. I know when we first started talking about this 2 years ago, we looked at several different options. And this one, if I remember correctly, and I'm hoping you can correct me, we did some curb and driveway improvement, but we didn't do it from edge to edge. There were some sections of the curb and gutter which I believe were salvageable, and we kept those in place, which helped bring the cost down from what was a very large amount to a more palatable. Is that correct?
That is correct. We had three options when we studied this project about a year ago.
Was it a year? Okay.
And we were recommending this mill and overlay.
Now, I think one of the concerns we had also was the road was really beaten down because of truck usage. Has it now been improved to the point where we're not going to have that same concern?
No, it will still receive that truck loading. When we did the coring of the pavement, we found that the pavement condition below that surface was still in good shape. And so we wanted we want to use that life of that pavement. We want to go, and so that's why we're recommending a mill and overlays. So we can kind of, we're doing work on the surface, but eventually you're going to see some of these cracks develop over the period of the next 10 to 15, 20 years. And so at that point, we'll have to look again on what that next improvement might be.
Assuming that we do our routine maintenance on here, and I know Dale is very adamant about the maintenance, we should get about maybe 20 years out of this before we have to really take another look. And I know we grade the township roads every so often and assign a ranking. This will be part of that, but we should ideally get about 20 years out of this.
Yes.
Okay? I think that was it. Thank you.
And to be clear, the Tamarack Nature side of this project, it wouldn't decrease or increase the assessment value. It's by the assessed value, or excuse me, the appraised value of the individual property owners, not because they live across the street from Tamarack Nature Center. There's no assessments on Tamarack side. I guess
There is.
There is.
Yes.
So the county has to pay.
16.5 units.
There we go. That's what I was starting at. Went a long way around to get there.
Yeah, and I should mention that when we started this project, there was larger frontage along that side. But as we investigated further, there's also a lot of wetlands on that side. And so we reduced that amount of, the amount of units for that Tamarack.
Because it was not buildable if
Yes.
it was.
And I should also mention that there's also a number of township property along that frontage that is also part of the calculation.
Right, anything else?
So a portion of that 308,000 is our township units.
All right, Tom, this one we didn't bond for also?
We did not bond for this one either.
All right, any other questions of Larry or Tom or the attorney? No, I don't. All right, hearing none, I need a motion to open up for public comment.
I'll move to open up the hearing for public comment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? If you wish to speak to this assessment, now is your chance. Sorry you had to sit through one of these already.
Just before you do talk, just a reminder, if that piece of paper that was passed around, that worked also for this?
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
We got it, we have it separated too.
okay, so
We're good.
make sure if your name is on there before
The vote.
the vote.
Actually, before,
You close the,
at the time we close, public comment, if you haven't signed, that's too late.
And if I did sign and I
You're all
figure out
set.
that I don't
You're
want
good.
to, then I just.
You're good.
you're
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Don't even scratch your name off, just don't do a thing.
Okay, Catherine Rabba, 1490 Hammond Road.
I'm sorry, what was your first name?
Catherine.
Catherine Rabba. I think probably some of the questions were answered. I do have the double lot. And this might not be the time for it, but I'm not sure that it really can be split, based on where our houses, our garages, and also we have a pole barn in back, plus wetlands. So I'm not sure it really can be split.
Larry, you
Based
familiar
on the
with it?
dimensions of how you guys do a lot, or a unit, I guess. So,
Usually our town planner sits down with our engineer and decides that, but you familiar with that piece of property?
Yes, it's right here on the map. Oh, my cursor isn't showing up, but it's on the south side. It when we evaluated it, we felt there was enough frontage there to be subdividable.
taking into consideration my pole barn, my garage, that it would be legally a unit that, okay, because there was some questions on that it couldn't really be subdivided based on our, our buildings on our lot.
Well,
Okay,
it
so
would have to meet the minimum square footage, which is 12,500 or something like that.
12,000.
12,000 and the 80-foot road frontage on the road itself. If it meets those two criteria, usually you're able to split it.
We do have the setback issues to worry about as well.
Correct.
Take into account that the property, the structures on the property, if it was a lot split and you were gonna just move it off, you know, those are all destroyable and can be changed. It's really the
Right, the
square
property
footage,
lines.
yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, I just thought, well, if we wanted to split it and we could, we'd have to move our garage. It might, you know, would it be beneficial? So I guess I did go up to the township. I did ask what like the appeal would be or whatever. And she said, basically, it states here you have to be 65 or older.
That's the,
Not
that's,
there
that's the
yet.
deferral. That's the
A
deferral.
deferral.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's not the, that's.
No, the appeals,
objection.
yeah. Yeah, statutorily, if you're certain categories, age, disabilities, also military service too.
Okay.
If you meet any of those categories, you have the right to apply for a deferral of the assessment, which is completely separate from the appeal.
Okay, all right. So I guess also she said that this is the time to, you know, if you were going to approve of the 4,000. So I was just asking, I have 8,000, so mine's double. Is there any way that I, without doing the objection appeal or any of that, that you would take into consideration lessening my amount?
Well, one problem is this, is that the, assessment should be uniform.
Okay,
And so, and I'm not trying to sound cold-hearted here, but constitutionally, there should be uniform across all the parcels.
right.
So you can't,
Right, okay, I understand. I just, I'm,
Your advantage, though, if that is a splittable lot, they're kind of expensive right now to buy.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay, I guess that kind of answers my concerns.
All right, thank you, Catherine.
Can I comment on the deferral?
Sure.
As Chad stated, you've got to be 65 or older and retired, or be totally disabled. You can be in the military, National Guard, reserves, they all qualify. The problem with the deferral is your income requirement is 1% of the first year of assessment. And so with this project, if we approve the $4,000, that first year would be $700. So if your income is more than $700, you're not going to qualify.
The clerk told me that it would be 19,000, you'd have to make less than 19,000.
Yeah,
That's what she told me.
according,
She said she never saw anybody actually
yeah, according to,
fight for it.
yeah, according to this, it just says the first year installment of the proposed special assessment must be either alone or in aggregate with installments of other special assessments due against the property and payable in the first year of the proposed assessment total more than 1% of the applicant's total household income.
Don't ask a quiz
Yeah,
on
that's
that one.
clear.
So,
that's a statute for you.
I did have one more question.
Yeah, come on up. It's just, we need all this on the record, so we have to,
Sorry, okay.
it's okay.
I didn't have my notes. So we're all, like, any type of money, bonding, levies, all of that stuff was taken in consideration. Wherever you could get money, a GoFundMe account. For you guys, for the township.
Haven't tried a GoFundMe.
Yeah, we haven't tried that.
That's next.
Solicit funds to, get this paid for before it was passed on to the homeowners, I guess.
That's pretty accurate.
Okay, that was my question.
Thank you.
One other thing about deferrals too, in addition to what Tom had to say, deferrals do not stop the interest from accruing. Interest accrues during the deferral period, just so we're clear.
All right, anyone else? Going once, going twice? All right, seeing none, I need a motion to close the public portion.
I'll move to close the public portion of the hearing.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, if there are no other questions or comments from the board, I'm looking for a motion on resolution 2022-6.
I'll make the motion based on the town engineer and staff review and recommendations. Adopt the resolution, adopting and confirming assessments for improvement 2022-6 at I believe that it was $4,000 per unit. That's the correct number, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Second.
All right, motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, that ends that public hearing.
I just want to make one comment that you raise a really good point, and I think it needs to be said more often. We have many, many conversations about how are we going to pay for the improvements that are needed in this township. And because of the way things are statutorily, we don't always receive funds from the state government that our neighboring cities may get. And so we are creative, although GoFundMe, I think, was something that we should talk about.
Get on that, Tom. Thanks.
And so we get creative, but the idea is that if it's at all possible, those residents that use that section of road more than, say, somebody on the south side of the town, it is more reasonable to have them pay for it. It all comes down to taxes at the end. If it's not assessed, it's going to be in the general tax levy, which means people on the south side are going to pay for this, much like people on this pay for the south side. And if you're in a county resident, then you're paying for the county road improvement projects. We have many, many, many conversations on roads. You should come up and listen to them sometime. It's very educational. I have learned more about road improvement than I ever thought I would, and they're very patient on explaining to me the ins and the outs of it. It's not cheap to have roads in good functioning order.
And those numbers are big. We have communities right next to us that get $1.5, $2 million a year in subsidies for their roads. We get $13?
No, we got cut to 12.
$12. Because we're a township, we don't fall into their categories, so we struggle to find every fund we can for this stuff,
I
so.
would like to comment on your contractor, just did a hell of a job.
Oh, good.
Working in those conditions.
Oh, yeah. It's a tough summer.
They were hammering all.
All right, we have one more agenda item, and this is also a public hearing. This is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program.
Wait, you haven't had a vote yet.
Oh, yeah,
We
you
did.
You did?
Yeah, unanimous.
Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
Do you want us to play it back?
I'll take your word for it.
All right, I need a motion to waive the
Did that
reading for
fast.
this.
I'll move to waive the reading that was properly published.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Larry, are you going to handle this Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program?
Yes, Mr. Chair and Town Board, thank you. We are required by law to hold this hearing tonight on our stormwater pollution prevention program. And I'm required to mention the requirement or our accomplishments over the course of the last year. First of all, we've held, we have to hold this hearing, so that's, we're holding it tonight. We also have to perform community education on our stormwater program. We have links on the township website for our stormwater, for our stormwater program that links you to some of the watersheds in the area. We have an advisory committee. We have a stormwater system map that we update continuously. We have a stormwater discharge ordinance. We require certain requirements for construction to prevent and minimize pollutants. We also have an inspection program, a street sweeping program, spring cleanup. And then we also complete work on stormwater structures every year. And then we also report these to the MPCA as a part of our requirements. So specifically, some projects were completed this last year, including work on catch basins throughout the township with either spray lining, grouting, replacing rings and rebuilding them. We cleaned out 8 pollution control structures this year, cleaned culverts, catch basin repairs, which we just mentioned, the work on Hammond and the Gilfillan areas that repaired and restored the function of catch basins and ponding systems in those projects. We also have other improvements on your, planned on our list, and those are in your packet. I won't go through those. And then, I just want to just say, this is my yearly pitch. We're trying to do our part to, keep our lakes, and wetlands clean of pollutants. And we have all these requirements to help make that happen. Just my pitch is that we need everyone's help with making that happen with, give some tips, and I'll give 3 specific tips for residents to help us with this is sweeping up after, you're salting your sidewalks. If things dry out, or if you're able to sweep that up and, maybe reuse it for the next ice storm. Number 2, don't dump your leaves and grass clippings in near wetland areas or where they can go to wetland areas. Clean out your curb and gutter. If you can, keep those drainage catch basins clear of debris if you can, and that would really help out us. We also do that sweeping to pick up some of those items before they get into the pipes themselves. And then thirdly, a more straightforward one is keeping, when you're doing oil changes, clean up after that, so that's not just running down into the stormwater system. So those are three things that residents can help us to improve our system. So tonight, this is a public hearing, so if there are comments from the public on our stormwater system, we have a public hearing for that. And I can answer any questions you might have.
Scott? Steve?
Well, one other thing that the public can help with is adopt a drain program that we have. The storm sewers at the end of the roads, some stuff runs down all over, and we have an adopted drain program, as many communities do. That's another easy thing that people could do. And just for the general public, on the storm ponds that we've been cleaning out, you can't just go in and drain them and take it in the next neighbor and throw it in a field someplace. It's got to be disposed of because it's considered hazardous material. So it has to be, there's a cost to that too, but it's necessary. So appreciate the help.
How many ponds do we have, Larry?
Oh,
Too many.
I think it's over 100.
Wow, I thought it was more than that, actually.
I think it's over that, but I know it's over 100.
And obviously, the township is blanketed by a couple different watershed districts. We have Belamo and Rice Creek Watershed, and they also implement it. But I was kind of curious as to, I just noticed, when we did this, these reports were sent out to the mayor of White Bear, the mayor of Vadnais Heights. Is that standard? Birchwood? I got it from Dale Reed, said he sent this report out to, I don't know, I've got a list here. City of Hugo. Is that something that's common, or is this just shared with the state?
It may be required per the permit.
So that's just the immediate surrounding communities?
We get notification from surrounding municipalities all the time for this.
Okay. All right, board, have any other questions? If hearing none, I will entertain a motion to open it up for public comment.
I'll move to open the hearing up for public comment.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, all opposed?
Hi, my name is Mike Bradley. I'm with the Rice Creek Watershed District. You were earlier this morning, in your meeting, you were kind enough to nominate me I just want to remind you that annually Rice Creek opens up $100,000 grants. Township has received a number of our grants in the past. The deadline to apply is December 31st. We look forward to an opportunity to continue working with you. You do great work. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
I know I personally sit on the board of directors for Belamo, so I can't believe you can talk for 4 hours for water, but we can. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this? Hearing once, hearing twice. All right, I need a motion to close the public portion.
Move to close the public portion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I guess we just there's not much to do other than adopt the presentation. There's nothing to do.
Yeah, all we're doing is formally accepting it, correct?
Yeah, just move a motion to accept.
I'll move to accept the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Program.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. That motion carries. That ends our agenda items. We have a spot for open time. If there's someone here that'd like to speak to anything that your heart desires.
You've already been up a couple times.
Anybody else want to?
again if you
come up and-
All right,
It's all right.
hearing none. I need a motion to receive agenda materials and supplements.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Then I need a motion to adjourn at 8:25.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Stay up.
Good job. Good.
Thank you. I was dying. Could you tell?
I think. See, I think all the communications.
That was a long time ago.